another episode of Rebel City Podcast, 138.
35.
Oh, for fuck's sake!
But through the power of editing and whatever, this will appear as though we actually kept our promise and stuck to a week's schedule. So it's not a week. We're still lying to you, but when we release the episodes a week apart, it'll look like we weren't. So give credit for at least that.
I'm just double checking that it's definitely. I can't even tell.
I overwrote 134 when I released it, so I'm pretty sure it was 135.
Aye, so we're at episode 135. We know it, but there's been a lot. I mean, we've fucking chatted for about an hour before we come on back there, but there's been a lot. But we'll kick off with Joe Biden's visit to Ireland, and I mean, he stuck his foot in it quite.
Well, I think a few times for what I gather, like. It's definitely the biggest sort of, I think, UK news story of the week anyway. I was laughing in the Celtic group chat with the lads when he congratulated the Irish rugby captain on defeating the Black and Tans, which was just like one of the like pure, huh? He's like, he clearly meant the All Blacks in the rugby. You know what I mean? But maybe his grasp of Irish history kind of crept in there, because he did make a big deal of, you know, being Irish as an American president, which a few of them have, you know what I mean?
Man, the Americans love their heritage, don't they? Like,
I mean, I think even Obama at one point was claiming to be like at least some part Irish, which I'm not saying isn't the case, but if you were to line up all the American presidents and be like, you know, pick out the Irish ones, I'm not sure I would have naturally thought to pick him out. You know what I mean?
But Biden seems to be like proper, well, not proper Irish, but you know, he seems to hate English people.
I mean,
or at least the British establishment.
He was accused of a few gaffes, whether they were gaffes or whether or not he was actually like throwing shade, who knows. I don't think he's as dithering as a lot of folk would like to think he is. I don't suppose you can be when you're in the position he's in, but then look who was there before him, so who knows. But he was I think the DUP complained about him at one point for being like during his visit, for being like anti-British sentiment or whatever it is.
Okay.
And you were like, okay, you know.
Is that because he's not gone to the coronation?
Is he no? Biden?
No. What do you think? Did you hear anything about that?
I don't follow coronation news.
Yeah, no, me neither.
Pretty sure he said he wasn't going to go to the coronation.
Pure fuck the king. We'll have a special for that.
I'll double check. I'll double check that. As much Dave. Well,
I think as
Dave's English, but
I think as the guy in the office.
VIP seats or something like.
Get a wee bit closer, just a wee tiny bit. Just your mic, just pull it.
I think as the guy in the office, does he not kind of have to go? But then I suppose that's what ambassadors are for, isn't it? You just like, fuck it, I'm sending the ambassador.
Aye, but like, let's think about it. Like, it's not like our prime minister always goes to the inauguration, do they? So like, it's not like they have to have a change of state. Has to be in, like, it's not like all the world leaders fly in for it.
But then the inauguration doesn't happen once every 80 years. You know what I mean? Like,
true.
Also, but I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't gone.
But I think the average is probably somewhere about 5 years for if you take all the kings and queens' reigns.
So, King Charles has invited Joe Biden on a state visit to Britain, despite the US president's decision not to attend his coronation in London. So. Right. He's come here and had some Guinness in Ireland, but he's not gone to Charles's.
So he is basically telling the king to go fuck yourself, which I did kind of like. As I say,
I know which party I'd be at.
Between what?
Between either
a couple of pints with Joe
Biden or a piss up in Ireland.
Aye, 100%. There's a favour, Dave. Going to click publish now on that Mac. That saves me a job later. I mean, I seen a thing that was saying that, I mean, pretty much very little people give a fuck about this coronation. Was it during the 30s or something that people were like, it's an important thing? And again, I think like when his ma passed, we were like, this is more a big thing for like the history books. This will be something that people read in a book 100 years from now and be like, oh, that was like a significant event. But I think for us, it's a fucking bank holiday and there's a Scottish Cup semi-final on the Sunday and I'm going to drink beer for quite a proportion of that day, and that is as much as I'm engaging with the coronation, probably about as much as Joe Biden, to be honest with you. Maybe no drinking Guinness though, but.
So, do we get a bank holiday on the? Is it what day? The 1st of May or the?
So there's May Day on the. We'll get back-to-back bank holiday Mondays. So we're off Monday coming for the May Day bank holiday.
End of the year, end of the month as well. I think it's like,
Possibly.
I think it's
And
right
then-
at the end.
And then we'll get the 8th, which is the Monday after the coronation. I think the coronation's a Saturday. So it is, you know, Celtic will be having a title party on coronation weekend, hopefully.
Aye,
you know what I mean?
we're playing Hearts on the Sunday because we
Aye.
potentially had like a Saturday 3 because there's 3 o'clock kickoffs on the day the coronation. I'm sure on the Saturday.
Right.
I don't know if that's 100%. I'm going
I mean, I don't
double
think
check that as well.
people up in Scotland are particularly fussed by it. I know there was like a request for the government to, like, you know, have local events, have local parties and blah blah. And I think pretty much councils up and down the country went, we're fucking skint. Where are we getting the money for that? You know what I mean? Like, so I don't think there's an awful lot of like official stuff happening really anywhere in Scotland that I'm aware of.
To see that there's English Premier League game 3 o'clock. They're all 3 o'clock kickoffs, so I can imagine that the coronation's going to be like earlier in the day because there's no 12:30 kickoff or anything in the Premier League. On
These things tend to be like full day numbers. Do they know where they have, you know, like the South Park episode was like, here is the Duchess of so and so
the royal pudding,
as is tradition, like that kind of thing. There'll be a lot of that for like 4 or 5 hours. He rocks up, and then the two of them get crowned. It's not just him, into the both of them will be like.
well, she's getting made full blown queen, isn't she?
I've heard people starting to refer to it as that, and I know that wasn't meant to be the case, but
She was supposed to be queen consort.
I think consort. I think but I think now that his ma's dead and he can do what the fuck he wants as king, he's just like, nah, she's a queen. Get used to it. You know what I mean? Like, which if you're him, on you go. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care what the fuck you're called. You know what I mean? Like,
Do whatever you want.
aye. So,
But we kind of get sidetracked there away from Biden.
Joe Biden. I don't really have much, I think, else to say on it, to be honest with you. You know what I mean?
Hope he
Like,
enjoyed himself in Ireland.
he seemed to, like I said, there was a cool snippet of him coming out of like one of the castles where they had, you know, like fireworks and like, you know, bandstands of people like lining, and you can even see him being like, pure fucking hell, this is awesome. You know what I mean? You're like,
I just saw the WrestleMania memes about him. Like, they were talking about it like he was walking out to
it did
WrestleMania.
look very much
that's
like a ring walkout, didn't it,
Yeah.
actually? I
was
knew you
fucking
mentioned it.
brilliant.
He's on the Titantron.
Aye.
Or that type of thing. Fucking hell. He announced the day that he's going to run in the next election. So
Says it's his duty to defend democracy. And thank fuck somebody's trying to do it earlier. You know what I mean? Like, aye. It's all got mental, as we were kind of discussing a wee bits and pieces last week. All the Trump legal stuff is still like, sort of boiling over. There's all sorts of mad shit going on in Georgia. Turns out that some of the lawyers that were offered like immunity for their guys to testify never went to their guys to say you've been offered immunity. So there's like lawyers getting disbarred, people having to recuse themselves because they're now the subject to investigations. I've seen somebody saying MAGA is not like make America great again. MAGA means make attorneys get attorneys. And it's got so far down the line that Trump's attorneys all now need lawyers themselves. So it's all like getting, you know, quite soap opera. He's obviously reacting like the man-child that he is. There was fucking accusations this week that after January the 6th failed, the insurrection in the Capitol failed, 2 days later they were like essentially invalidating voting machines. So they had like an Trump operative in touch with someone in a really sort of tiny local election area that is overwhelmingly conservative. So it was like their guys in their area, and Trump's guy went to these people and was like, I want some of the voting machines. And what they were trying to do was break into the voting machines to steal the data, to manipulate the data to make it look like it had been manipulated by somebody else, and then to release it as evidence that the voting machines had been, you know, tampered with. So like every week it just gets worse and worse and worse. And I think we've been sitting about for like 2 years now going, well, what the fuck have they been doing for 2 years? This is what they've been doing for 2 years. And I don't think they're actually all coordinating because they can. They're on different
jurisdictions at different levels and stuff like that. But there is a lot of coincidentally like really big shit happening that just seems to just be every day there's something else with him. So, you know, hopefully they get him and crucify the fucker, to be honest with you.
Is he claiming like pure Andrew Tate Matrix? This is just them trying to tear me down. Has he come out with any nonsense like that yet?
I mean, that's pretty much his entire stick for when he ran. I mean, when he ran the first time in 2016, he was telling you about how he was going to get beat for the day he announced he was running. You know what I mean? That they were going to steal the election for him because he was getting his excuses in early because first time round he expected to get beat. You know what I mean? So the whole elections were stole for me was there for like day one. You know what I mean? So I this week his stuff has got really like as we were talking like proper outright fascism, where I did a video a couple of days ago where he was like, on day one in my new presidency in 2024, I will be looking at teachers and lecturers and professors at universities and colleges who do not like abide by what we want them to teach, like which means no race theory and all these other things that are now, you know, up for debate in the educational system. There is it also saying that as well as that on day one, any prosecutors, any judges, any sort of lawyers that basically came after him in the wake of his multiple sort of alleged crimes at this point will also be essentially hunted down and like kicked out, sacked, prosecuted themselves for like days. So this is him saying the first priority I've got if I get back in is to go run all the doors and basically fucking take revenge against anybody who tried to stand against me whilst I was not president. And that is absolutely terrifying.
How can you get away with that though? How,
I know.
And what, I mean, in the very unlikely circumstance that he gets back in, like surely he won't get away with that.
Well, surely, like his favourite people are Putin.
Yep.
Kim Jong-il. Like he goes with dictators. He loves dictators. So that's what he's
this week he released a book
trying to do a very, very poor attempt of creating a dictatorship over there.
Yeah.
But it's just the country was never ready to actually turn that way.
Yeah.
But that's essentially what
he's always spoken the euphemisms of the far right as well. He's never ever come out and actively said these things, and it was that like stochastic terrorism that we were talking about last week where he goes, take your country back, and then when people go and violently try to overthrow the capital, he goes, I never told them to do that. Show me where I said that. I didn't say go take the capital. That wasn't me. You know what I mean? But the people who he's talking to know what he means. You know what I mean? And this is, again, is more overt. He's actually saying, when I get back in, I am fucking coming for every single last one of yous, and it is my number one priority. Well, and you're like, that is chilling, man.
They don't need to come out and outright say it now, because like back in the, you know, if we how do we stay away from fucking Nazi Germany? But back then they needed to tell the message direct, because the newspapers, not the TV, but the newspapers and the radio and the posters that they would put about were literally, other than the meetings where they would get together.
Yep.
But see now with internet, like QAnon's like that, they got the message direct, like they would be translating it for the following, you know, and saying like, this is what he means when he says this. So they don't need to come out and outright say it. They can just dog whistle left, right and centre and let the internet sort of translate it for the people that they're trying to talk to. Do you know
Absolutely,
what I mean?
or interpret it however they want to put their lens on it. I think we have had like a massive win this week against that type of shit, against the misinformation, against the disinformation that we're talking about. And I think it also ties in really nicely with some of what we were talking about last week about, are these people genuine? And I was like, no, there's not a single fucking one of them is genuine. Every single one of them thinks that if you engage with them, their content, their outlooks, that you are a fucking idiot, you're the mark. And like, I think we've seen that this week in the Fox News ruling. So like, Fox actually got done for defamation, and it's the largest defamation settlement in US political history. I think the previous record was $150 million. Also for, it was like misinformation against a beef company. They were accused of putting sorry in their burgers or whatever it was, and sued, I think it was ABC for $150 million, and that was the biggest settlement ever. So, you know, this settlement was $787.5 million, which is like, what, 6-7 times what
the biggest previous was.
one.
And it's because Fox News were deliberately putting people on who were like, these machines were tampered with, the software was corrupt, Biden's involved, and Pelosi's involved, like, and this was all used as justification to drive like January the 6th and the insurrection. But what came out in Discovery was that Fox News knew all of that was bullshit. So Tucker Carlson, all the big names,
and shit, weren't there?
talking about how he fucking hates Donald Trump. No, he was obviously just sacked yesterday, which is also fucking great news.
Tucker Carlson was saying he hates Donald Trump.
They were all the main anchors, Laura Ingraham, all of them were in like group chats and text message chains, email chains where they were like, this is nonsense. Like, this is, and some of them mentioned like, this is like really fucking dangerous. Like, what is going to happen when this happens and when this happens and blah blah. So like, they were all 100% conscious of what they were doing and the impact that it was going to have, and then chose to go ahead and do it anyway. One of the fucking nutters, she's a woman who, ex-lawyer, whatever it was, had a guest on who I was like, I've got irrefutable evidence that the Dominion machines that were subject to this lawsuit were like tampered with. And she's like, cool, where did you get this from? And she's like, oh, my mate. And then they meet the mate, and the mate is a clairvoyant. She's like, I have images and stuff that come to me in dreams. And like, this was the evidence that Fox News used to justify putting election lies on the air. So it was, so like, in their text messages and their emails, even up to like Rupert Murdoch, like they had them like lock stock. So they were asking for like $1.6 billion and settled for just short of 800 million. So they got like 50 cents on the dollar, so like half the money. And obviously, subsequently, Tucker Carlson has been sacked, who was one of the main guys putting this shit out there. But there's also other lawsuits out there. So see, the machines were that was for the machines.
Right.
But
so who's getting this money? Like the US government? Is it
no,
like the people versus...
the guys who make the voting machines, basically.
Oh, right. Okay.
So they had to pay them $800 million for basically lying about them.
Right.
But they're also like in court for the guys who put the software in the machines. And the guys who put the software in the machines want something like $2.3 billion. So you're saying if 50 cents on the dollar is an accurate kind of like rough, because if they've settled the first one, they have to settle the second one. They cannot, like, to settle it, what they're trying to do is get it out of the public domain and have people a chance to forget about it. Pay the money, take your medicine, move on. They can't then, a year from now, begin back through the same process again. So they will settle this other one. And you're saying what half of what they're asking for is like another 1.2 billion. Then Fox's shareholders are also suing them because they were actively putting disinformation out, and it was against their share prices and it tanked their investments and blah blah blah. So like they're getting it from all angles. So they are lit,
right.
And it's pretty fucking beautiful. So it's like,
and I just had a wee Google there that's saying it's Fox News is net worth of 16.8 billion. And knowing how much $1 billion is, it's almost like 800 million quid. It's horrible to say, it's like a fucking drop in the ocean.
Aye.
But if they've got more coming, another billion. And
so I think that 16.8 is like the entire sort of Fox corporation, because obviously they have like MGM and movies and all sorts of stuff.
They're owned by Disney, aren't
they? I'm not sure. It might be Paramount. One of them anyway.
Okay.
But it might be that they own Paramount. I'm not sure. But the
16.8 billion.
Aye. So Fox News was said to be worth last year about 4 billion. So it was like, so this particular division of Fox News was 4 billion in earnings. So 800 million of that is basically like 20% of their yearly income, which if you're sitting explaining yourself to the board, you're 100%, unless you're Rupert Murdoch and it's your fucking company top to bottom, like you're 100% getting sacked and you're getting taken for every penny that you have got. So the horrible bastards behind the news of the world, the horrible bastards behind the Sun and phone hacking, and now, you know, election tampering, got a pretty fucking big comeuppance, and some of the figureheads like Carlson and stuff like that are now on the firing line as well for
like
personal
being sued, right?
Personally being sued to the tunes of, I mean, Trump's
like a total takedown.
It's like $1 billion Trump's in the hang me for. So like he's out. Have you seen his NFTs?
I seen the announcement. I seen people tweeting the announcement.
Aye, so he had to like
It
Dave's
was
financial disclosure, and he disclosed this company at somewhere between £500,000 and $1 million, and it was in his cost benefit analysis as he began to run, and he's out there like, I've got a major announcement, and all the right wing nutters like, yes, he's going to run, he's going to announce his presidency, and he's got like basically NFTs, and it's like him as an astronaut, like him as a cowboy. Like him as a chef or a NASCAR racing driver, and like see the actual
like Trump cards, like Donald Trump cards.
He actually even can't say top trumps because he would get sued. You know what I mean? Like, can't use his own name on a card, a Trump card, because he'll get fucked. But these, I mean, look these NFTs up because the actual quality of the Photoshop on them is disgraceful. Like it's like a child has done it with a fucking crayon. Like honestly, they're brilliant.
What's he trying to sell them for? Like, what's going on? Like,
so it's money laundering basically. So the maximum that you can buy equates to $5,000 less than the figure that you need to report.
Aye, that was the one I'd seen. The one where he was
it's like $10,000.
He was holding the broken Liberty Bell.
Liberty Bell. Aye.
But this is the thing, mate. Like that.
Even though he's still grifting.
But I mean, he announced that when, what, a week ago? Under a week ago?
So this is the second phase here.
Totally sold it.
So
it's like, it is hilarious, but there's still fucking nuggets out there that are backing them. Do you know what I mean?
Aye.
And I think look at that one, man.
Aye, like American Superman. Like they're absolutely.
That looks like from another, not quite the Superman one. More
it looks like Mr. Jeff or something.
Shazam or whatever.
Mr. Sheen or whatever the guy is. You know what I mean?
Look at that one. It's a lion made of fire with a crown, with like dominating the earth.
Now, what he's done is basically on both of the sets of NFTs that he released, he kept the most rare of them for himself, so that once he creates the market with other NFTs, he can then sell off his rare incarnations of the NFTs for even more money again. But the transaction limit is like, whatever it is, $9,995 is the most that anybody can spend, because at $10,000, they need to report that transaction to the IRS. So it's literally like, essentially a way for him to funnel money away, because like, the statement says he's $200 million in debt. So he's like, no, I've not got any debt. And you're like,
but he's
you're
always
like
been,
200.
Been like well in debt. And
yeah, he's always been financed by debt.
A lot of these, like a lot of these billionaires are
absolutely
completely in debt. But yeah.
So you do expect some debt, but I don't know that $200 million, because think about it, like a police officer with a gambling addiction is seen as a risk for targeted corruption, that somebody else could become aware of that influence over them and exploit that to influence decisions or investigations. Now, that's at a pure street level. Think about a president that owes $200 million and what decisions that might or might not influence him to make. You know what I mean? Like, it's a lot of money. But he's trying to plug it.
He is also coming from a political sphere where like Nancy Pelosi's literally doing insider trading and
they are. Aye.
So he's like not even part. They're all at risk because they're all allowed to trade.
There was a guy last week, 2 weeks ago, created a algorithm, a sort of trading exploit for shares and stocks on the NASDAQ that literally just follows what US senators or where they're putting their money. Literally, automatically just puts money where US senators are putting their money.
Okay, how did they know where they're putting their money?
Well, there is like financial disclosures and stuff like that, but again, I think they're after the fact, aren't they? I think the algorithm then extrapolates and whatever else. I'm not sure because I'm no an algorithm guy.
You can follow people's like their index, like their trading pot, like where they're kind of putting their shares. Like it has to be all publicly limited, so you have to be able to see it. Like that's why you could follow Warren Buffett, but you're normally behind the trend, like before you can do it. But they do it like, I think I saw that, and it was like they're taking like, it was that I think
they must have their accounts tagged.
I think it was actually, well, I think it was also tied in with they looked at all the companies that are like big backers of the political parties. So they were like looking at the companies that are actually backing the political companies, the political parties, so that they would back them, because obviously, let's just see how their political ties do for them, basically.
Yeah. Aye, if they're paying for
Genius,
if they're paying for their own politician, they're probably worth investing in. You know what I mean? Like, but again, same here. You know what I mean? Like we're sick to death talking about it here as well. It's everywhere. You know what I mean? Like the levels of corruption or alleged corruption that goes on out there. You know what I mean? It's eye-watering.
That's what I hate about this whole the whole scenario. Like, I'm absolutely people. If you've listened to podcasts, no, I don't like Donald Trump.
No.
But it's the hypocrisy that exists, like, and it continues to rile people up.
Mm-hmm.
Like these people that follow Trump, that you know the what you know, like they call it the racists in the North of England. You know, people that have sort of ended up drifting into like UKIP and voting for Boris Johnson, thinking that somehow these people see exactly what Dave's talking about there, and like, where's the energy and the dedication to like fucking convict Tony Blair, George W. Bush. Like it feels to me like, and I only say this because it worries me that they use this type of shit where it's like, well, when Trump did it, they were fucking straight on him. They're like white on fucking rice. I mean, they're all at him like flies on a shite. But what about Pelosi? And like, I hate it when they use it because you're like, I don't disagree with it. I don't disagree with what you're saying. Do you know what I mean?
Aye, because what they're doing is corrupt as fuck. Like, they're all corrupt. And I was having this conversation with Wayne the other week there, and she was asking me about politics. And I was like, don't get into politics. Like, and she was like, how? And is that way? Because you're an 18-year-old lassie. Like, go and do things that 18-year-old lassies do. Don't go and do things that, like, boring 40-year-old guys do. You know what I mean? Like, and she was like, aye, but...
Say that to Greta Thunberg.
But I was more just getting to enjoy your life and don't worry about this shit right now. You know what I mean? Like, there'll be a time for it, but it's no now. You know what I mean? Like, and she was like, well, how do you know when like a politician is lying to you? And I'm like, just assume that they're always lying to you, because they almost certainly are. Like, they are chameleons who are trained to tell you whatever you need to hear in the moment to go away and stop bothering them. Like, and a lot of them are very, very good at it. That way, like, I think it was running the Nicola Sturgeon stuff. She was like, I don't really believe all this, and I'm not sure. And like, she obviously has grown up with Nicola Sturgeon as the First Minister of Scotland and has looked up to her and is now like, well, what the fuck's all this I'm hearing, and I don't really get it, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, look, just assume that they're all liars. Like, unfortunately, like, what you need to judge them by is what they do. Like, know what they say. Like, a good politician is a politician who says, I'm going to do this good thing and then follows through with it, or I'm going to stop this bad thing and follows through with it. Like, their words are irrelevant. It's the actions that you'll keep an eye on. And they're all, the ones that are taking these insider trading and are every bit as bad as Donald Trump, but they also write the rules. Like, we're seeing it the new way, that Clarence Thomas, the Supreme Court Justice in America, where for the last 20 years, he has been accepting hospitality for one of the Republican Party's biggest donors. The guy's a fucking ultra billionaire. Has like a fucking 200-foot yacht that he takes this guy Thomas out to every time the court's not in session. They have like a pure guys only retreat out in the American wilderness somewhere where they go and like shoot shit and fucking barbecue and like just generally be like lads. And it's pure oddball as fuck, so it is, man. Like, and it was like, well, we've been mates for years. What's wrong with this now? And they're like, well, you've not declared any yet. Like, the holiday that you went on, and it was ProPublica had done the maths and went, had you like sourced this holiday yourself, this would have cost you $500,000, but you got it all for free. Like, so you need to declare that. We need to know, because when this guy's got business in front of the court, we want to know that you're not already in his pocket. And but we've been mates for years. And you're like, when did you meet? Oh, 2 years after I became a Supreme Court Justice. And you're like, oh really? Imagine pure, that, eh? You know what I mean?
Like, Epstein-esque like type of like fucking surrounding himself with these people that he can sort of like use as like a human shield.
The other one that Trump appointed, Gorkrush, the day had a story where he was struggling to sell a house for 2 years, and then 2 days after becoming a Supreme Court Justice, a law firm came in and bought his house off him at a ridiculous overprice. And then this company has subsequently had like something like 15, 20 cases in front of this judge at the Supreme Court. So like it's everywhere. It's, and no just in America, like here as well. You know what I mean? Like the corruption, like money corrupts absolutely. You know what I mean? Like, unfortunately.
Aye.
We need to stop like concluding on really like depressing points because it's becoming too much.
Then we need to stop talking about politics. Unfortunately,
definitely.
Like that would need to be the case. I mean, it depends on where you want to go next, but I would quite like to talk about these child labour laws.
Oh, I've seen this. I
don't know if you'd seen it about it, Dave. About Arkansas. So they've already got some sketchy fucking child labour laws. So under 16
and child marriage laws in that part of the world.
Which is another topic of conversation. Now they're trying to get the age of consent for marriage down to like fucking 12 in some places in America, you know. But the Arkansas have just made it legal for people 13 to 16 to work on building sites. So 14 and up, I think it was 14 and up. 14 and up, you can start doing like manual labour. Currently, you need a letter for your parents, but you can only do like service industry work, and that's for 12 to 18. I think is that when they're an adult.
I think for 12 years old you can do like service, and for like 14 you can do construction. Is this rule they're trying to pass?
Are they just worried about like all the Dagestanis like winning the UFC, that they're like, right, get the children onto the bricks, get them all out there. We're not losing any of this wrestling anymore.
Trump's opening coal mines and firing fucking 14-year-olds into coal mines so that they can like fucking compete at the UFC. I mean, I think this is fucking insane, man. Like,
that is insane. Yeah, that's like, feels like it's what a 50, 60-year-old policy coming back into play.
I mean, it's like fucking bringing back chimney sweeps. Like, get it to fuck. You know what I mean?
It's just crazy, man. I mean, we've been talking about this for how much they want to just wind the fucking clock back on so many issues.
This like halcyon day that never existed in the first place.
You know what I mean? Like pure find the promised lands of the 1950s or whatever.
Everything was so much better when 12-year-olds could serve coffee instead of being in school. You know what I mean? Like, the world was so much better when 14-year-olds could go up a step ladder with some bricks. You know what I mean? Like, let's go back to that. You know? Like, that didn't exist in the first place. What the fuck are you talking about? You know what I mean?
Like, is there a market for this? Like, is there a lot of people wanting to send their wains into workplaces? Like,
who knows? Because then the story becomes about, well, we were hard workers and pulled ourselves up with our bootstraps at 12 years old, and I had a paper round that became a newsagent's shop that became, you know, I now own 14 local papers. You know what I mean? Like, there's always that shit, that kind of like aspirational bullshit that gets then ladled on top it, that, you know, 14-year-olds, well, maybe I do want to go and get a job. You know what I mean?
Do they not have, like, we have obviously laws that say you have to complete, like, full-time education up until a certain age. Like, all right,
I've got no idea where this one sits.
You might be able to work with, like, because I had a job at 14, but, like, obviously it was just a weekend job.
Yeah.
Know? But, like, you have to be in, like, full-time education up until, like, 16 in the UK, so I guess that kind of eradicates
I think
whole...
even when we were young, and saying you were young, I don't know where like paper rounds fall into child labour laws, but I think like even like working in a shop, I think that'd have been illegal if they did get caught having like 14-year-olds working in their shops.
I'm not entirely sure. I think this type of thing changed a lot when things like minimum wage and that came in, because the minimum wage was like age bracketed, and then I think things around that type of stuff maybe changed, but I don't remember because
don't know either.
When I was doing my paper run, I was just
like, you were limited on how many hours you could do at that age, and you were paid like £3 an hour, like it was ridiculous.
Mine was literally up and down 2 streets, and you know, it took me like half an hour on my bike. But then I know people who were my age who were doing paper rounds out the back of a van and doing like half a canteen, like the way you would do like a milk delivery run. You know what I mean? Like, well, it was like an industrial operation, and you're like, the van, I'm going to do my paper run, all right, cool. I'll give you a walk round. Oh no, the van's going to come and pick me up. And you're like, van?
There's like 3 guys in the back of a van.
What are you talking about? You know what I mean? We're getting to the back of the van and just... Well, I think it was the Evening Times actually at the time.
It was the Evening Times that used to do it, and it would be like an Evening Times branded van, and they would come and pick up like 3 or 4 like, they would just teenagers,
park up in maybe the middle of a scheme, and the wains would all disperse with the papers and come back, and they'd move on to the next one. And
that's funny.
I'm saying it was a literal industrial operation. So I'm like, that now looking back on it probably feels like it should have been like labour laws involved there. But me running up and down the street with my bag and my bike and putting papers in the neighbours' doors doesn't really feel like it should. So I don't know.
I think it was just a grey area, but I don't imagine, you know, I mean, I can't imagine going to fucking building a building site.
Aye,
But
14.
what you doing at the weekend? Like, just fucking building some houses at fucking 14-year-old.
Back in school on the Monday morning, like, pure, but we done here on, or industrial accident. You know what I mean?
Exactly, man. It's just, I just think it's mental. I just think if these types of things continue, man, like, fuck knows what we're going to see. I mean, I just can't get my head around why they want to, like you're saying, like 50-year-old changes that we celebrate, like workers' rights and
Aye.
the NHS and everything. They're just like, we're just got to take it all back. We don't want any of it. Can go in the fucking bin.
It's about control, isn't it? You know what I mean? It's their ideology requires that not only is their ideology respected and accepted as, like, something that comes with a civil society, but they want it to supersede your ideology and your sort of wants and your needs because they say so. And we see that in all the decisions, not just in America, but in the UK, the links between the two, something that we go back to all the time because, it feels as though we're slightly more diluted, but what's actually the case in the UK is that they're just a lot better at hiding it and, covering it up. And,
we've been doing it longer.
And not having the conversations that seem to be happening elsewhere, you know what I mean? Like,
we've been doing it for so long that they know how to just completely get away with it. Whereas, in America.
All the Partygate and, COVID, just fuck it. They've got, we'll have an inquiry and then they park the inquiry like 3 years down the line. And then when it comes up, it's like a footnote in a fucking newspaper and nobody cares. You know what I mean? Like, that's the sort of pretty standard British tactic, is just to be like, oh, fuck, that's terrible. Let's get an inquiry.
It's also that classic, like, what do you call it, like Kansas shuffle, whatever, where it's like, oh yeah, child labour laws, everyone goes, what are you talking about? Big drama. And then they go, okay, we won't do that. Move the retirement age up by 2. Like, they do something just completely like, oh well, if we're not getting the child labour laws, that's okay then.
That's causing fucking all sorts of madness in France, the retirement age. And, like, they get it. Like, I don't want to work
to your, like, 80,
whatever it is, 67, 70, whatever it is. Like, thankfully I work in an office, but I don't want to be doing that till I'm fucking 70 years old. Like, fuck that. Like, the whole point in retirement is that you've done your bit for society and you now have time to hopefully go and enjoy as much of your life that you've built as possible. But at the same time, the actual science behind raising the retirement age is completely valid. Like, we are living longer, we are healthier longer. Like, I'm not saying I should say put up the retirement age. I definitely know. My mum gets shafted with it. You know what I mean? Like, she was in that, like, group women that just their cut-off dates didn't align and they had to basically do 5 more years work, and there was nothing for her for doing that, you know what I mean, like, other than 5 more years of work that took her knees and her hips, you know what I mean, like, as a home help. But, like, shit, I forgot where I was going there.
Raising the retirement age.
There are, like, legitimate concerns that, as a population, I don't know that we can necessarily sustain it at 65 or 67 or whatever it is.
If we're going to live to, like, they reckon the first person that's going to live to 150 is already alive or something like that.
And it is getting better. It's going to continue to get better. We're going to make new discoveries on diseases and whatever else. These things have been happening and will continue to happen. You know what I mean? Like, that's the trajectory that we're on. So there has to be a conversation about it. But I don't know what the answer is. I'm not remotely qualified.
The AI is going to take all the jobs anyway, so we don't need to worry about working.
So just get universal basic income in for the get-go, then we don't need to worry about it. There we go, sorted.
We don't need to be concerned. And
everybody, we've sorted it. We've sorted it.
There's such an easy solution for it all. I mean, I heard an AI written Oasis album,
right?
About 5-6 days ago. That was, it was good. I briefly listened to it. I just sort of like skipped through bits of it just to see what it sounded like. Man, it's pretty fucking spot on.
My daughter has randomly started listening to Oasis because TikTok. So I was coming in the house one time a couple of weeks ago, and I was actually talking about it on Twitter, and she was in the bathroom in the shower, and as I was walking up the hall, I heard "Don't Look Back in Anger" kick in, and I was like, what? No, I've never tried to put any of my musical taste on her or anything like that, you know what I mean? Like, I've never even spoke to her about, like, Oasis and stuff, and back in the day, I was absolutely fucking mental for them, you know what I mean? Like, absolutely fanatical, had all the singles, went to all the gigs, you know what I mean? Like, so
it's one of the ones where I'd have probably liked it to been like, oh, what was it like when Oasis were an actual thing? You know what I mean? But we eventually did have that conversation, but at the time I was like, the fuck is she doing listening to like Oasis? And it slipped my mind, and then a couple of days later, coming out of her room, you can hear Wonderwall, and I'm like, when are you listening to like what's Story Morning Glory? And she's like, what's that? And I was like, what do you mean, what's that? You were listening to Don't Look Back in Anger and Wonderwall in the last couple of days? And she was like, oh no, I was just watching TikTok. And this was the background music, the TikToks that she was watching was.
Right.
So, but I really like them. And I was like, oh, fucking hell, right, okay. And then it was like, what else you listening to then? Oh, like the Pixies. And I was just like, you're a 90s kid. And I was a 90s kid. But like, how the fuck did this happen without us actually like conversing on this? Like, you're accidentally like
Live in the same house.
absolutely daft on Britpop, and I'm like, this was like my jam. Like, how did this happen without us like getting on the same page about it? But it was kind of cool that it did, to be honest with you.
Watching Friends and everything now.
Aye, she's daft on Friends as well, so she is. Like,
Right.
Aye, but aye, Oasis.
We are literally like what I remember our parents in like 96.
I mean, they were talking about like fucking Spandau
60s.
Ballet and
No, like,
Led Zeppelin and that.
Aye, like my mum and dad were talking about the 60s and like blah blah blah, you know, the Lisbon Lines and all that came back, and there was that whole 60s revival, and then Austin Powers and that all sort of came off of the Britpop. And
Yeah,
them having the sort of the Beatles having the sort of the Beatles, Oasis having the sort of Beatles haircut, and so we are literally that now
Aye.
in the 2020s. Kind of
I thought we
depressing.
weren't going to do depressing points. Okay, so let's move on for that depressing point, and let's get into cosmic nihilism. So we obviously spoke in recent weeks about, you know, the idea of like content club, and we've finally all managed to mostly watch the movie that we decided to watch, and it was everything everywhere all at once.
Yeah.
I came up with this one just purely on the basis that when we were having this conversation, the Oscars was happening that night, and it was a big favourite to like win it. I hadn't seen it at the time. I think you had seen it already, Sheppy.
Yeah, I saw it. It came out. Yeah, I didn't see it at the cinema. I saw it like sort of
Yeah.
Prime.
on Prime or whatever. Yeah.
Amazon Prime.
This is the type of movie that I love. It's pure arty, like Oscar bait. I still like a fucking Transformers movie, and like sometimes there's nothing better than watching like a 60-foot dinosaur punch a robot through a building, right? I'm cool with that. But I also do like kind of arty, like, you know, cinephile kind of stuff that, but, you know, I need to be in the mood. It's like war movies. I need to be in that mood. And if I'm in that mood, I'm like, let's go for this. So it took me a bit longer to get around to everything, everywhere, all at once, because I was like, I need the mood to be like, right, I'm going to give this the proper attention that it deserved. And when I finally got to it, I've got to say, I really enjoyed it. Like,
It was not what I expected.
Aye.
I don't know about yourself, but like I didn't go into it quite like I don't know if what I thought it was before I started watching it. Obviously, I understood with the cast that there was going to be like some martial arts and stuff like that, but I wasn't sure whether. And I'd seen more interviews with is it Michelle?
Yo,
So
Michelle Yeoh.
it's just dynamite.
She's brilliant.
She's fucking excellent.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. And and then when I put it on, and it was one of those ones. Most things that I watch are like semi in the background. I might be doing other things.
Exactly.
This one I tuned right in, and I was like, "Oh, okay." And it is like it's a mixture of like the Matrix meets Inception meets like
Kind of like Fight Club.
else. Yeah. But it was different. It was good. It had comedy, like a lot of comedy elements.
Aye. Well, I don't know about my preconception yet, because multiverse seems to be like a big thing in cinema sort of generally. We're about to get, you know, a DC Batman movie that explores multiverses. We've had
There's
a couple
Nintendo
of
universe is coming out.
right, okay.
They've got apparently there's a whole series of Nintendo films coming. So Mario starts it, which has just been the biggest box office one. But they're gonna do everything Metroid Prime right through
Right.
to like all the different sort of Nintendo.
That's
games
got the
as
potential to be cool. There's like a pure heavy nostalgia hit on that there, like with the
well.
Nintendo
90s
stuff.
again,
Aye,
though. It's all 90s again.
definitely. I mean, I'm playing Final Fantasy VII now. So let's talk about nostalgia.
We're going back. But somebody, you want to hear this? Somebody said to me, literally last night, like, do you remember when, like, and they said Nintendo, and I was like, in my head thinking the NES or whatever. And
Yeah.
like, remember when everybody had like the Nintendo DS? And I was like, that was like fucking 8 years ago. And they're like, what age are you? And they're like 23, and I'm like, right, okay. Like, fuck, I'm like, no.
I remember playing Duck Hunt.
So bad.
They've still got the Game Boy grey block. One you had to attach a magnifying glass with little lights on it if you wanted to play at night.
The screen was so dull that you literally, like, now you're like, I couldn't even sit. I don't know how I sat. I used to sit in the sun and play Tetris with like a fucking dot matrix, like version 1 Game Boy. And see now when you put them on, like, I've still got my original one.
Fucking weapon now.
Aye, man, it is a brick.
Like, you have that by the bed. Like,
Nothing compared to the Game Gear. You ever see the Sega Game Gear? That thing was like that size, man. It was fucking huge. But anyway, like, back to the
I know. So
everything everywhere all at once.
I didn't know what to expect. As I say, the multiverse seems to be something that people are exploring in film sort of more and more regularly, to sort of greater or lesser success. I'm not really vibing with the Marvel stuff now in that respect. Like, we'll wait and see what the DC stuff does. Because
if Marvel had started out with a multiverse, because I feel like they ripped the cunt right out of it with the amount of shit that they put out. It wasn't like that the stuff was bad, or that the movies were bad, or the TV shows were bad. I just get sick of Marvel. I just get sick of the sort of characters, and don't know if they'd maybe went for it at the start, where they went for like a whole multiverse sort of thing, instead of coming in like 10 years into it and going, we're not going to expand into a multiverse. It's just like,
It's kind of what James Gunn's talking about doing with the DC stuff, is basically saying, like, we will have various universes where Michael Keaton's Batman exists in this one, but Robert Pattinson's Batman exists in that one.
Okay.
And there's the TV Superman out of Lois and Clark, but there will also be a new Superman to replace Henry Cavill. And the proviso is that these characters all exist within their own universes within the wider DC multiverse. They won't always interact. There's not necessarily like going to be interaction. I think the Flash one where like Michael Keaton and Ben Affleck and stuff like that is going to have like crossover that's meant to essentially reset what DC are trying to do back to square one. And this is what they're saying is going to happen with, and that's why like Batgirl and all these things were cancelled, because they were like, fuck it, don't need it. Like, we're just scrapping it and going again for like square one. The way they handled it in Everything Everywhere All at Once, I thought was quite cool. Obviously, the husband, who plays or who was played by the boy who was previously shot round, and was it Temple of Doom?
Yep.
They had a nice wee reunion with Harrison Ford, which I thought was quite cool. And just how it's the consciousness that changes. It's not the actual person's physicality. It's that your consciousness skips between these different versions of yourself, which I thought was quite cool. There was no need for portals or CGI or special, you know what I mean? Like, as much as there was all that stuff in it, but like on the other side of it, I was like, and I joke a lot about like nihilism, and is it like a sort of personal philosophy? And it's no. I don't think it's very like positively portrayed in like media and stuff like that. And again, it's because the notion that there is nothing, there is no God, there is no. It can be quite depressing, and we see the daughter experience that despair when she comes to the realization that nothing really matters, because everything is happening. Every decision she could possibly make in every possible scenario is all happening out there. And she has come to that realization, and it makes her despair. And that's the kind of like standard kind of like portrayal that you get, like nihilism and the ideas associated to it. Because it can be quite bleak, you know what I mean? Like, but what I liked at the end of it was that Michelle Yeoh's character goes through that realization process that her daughter goes through. And at the start of the movie, they don't relate to each other. They're having issues with her daughter's sexuality and various other bits and bobs, all the kind of like menial, just day-to-day stuff that gets on tap is that the business has been investigated and the marriage is failing and the daughter doesn't like. And when she goes through the process that the daughter goes through and realises that all these other possibilities are out there and that they're all actually literally happening sort of simultaneously, she comes out the other side of it with the kind of similar lesson to what I've had. And it's the first kind of like positive portrayal I've ever seen of like a nihilistic idea in like a movie in this kind of respect, where she comes out the other side of it and kind of is liberated for the dirge of a failing business, a failing marriage, liberated for the pettiness that her and her daughter are experiencing, can now actually relate and communicate on things that matter to them, that, in the end, spoiler alert, you've not seen a 6-month-old movie at this point, sorry, but
fuck you.
they choose to live in the original reality with the home and the business, and
They
she's just asked for the divorce for the husband and realised that wasn't the right thing to do, and they've taken all time and space, every possibility, every reality that could ever exist, and they've just went, don't need it, because we are choosing what we have got here to be the important thing to us. And like that properly spoke to me, so it did, like, because I don't engage in nihilism on like a day-to-day basis. Like, I don't believe that God exists. I believe that this is all an accident. This is all just completely, like the guy, was it Camus or whatever it is, like absurd. Like, so the absurdity of life is that we are logical beings that crave pattern, that will seek it out and like try to problem solve. And the biggest absurdity is that we will spend all our time in existence doing that. And the answer is that it's all for nothing. So the actual whole concept of life is just absurd. You know what I mean? Like, and the movie touches on that absurdity quite nicely. Like when the daughter does the reveal and comes in and she's walking down the corridor dressed as the cowgirl, and like she's taking bits and pieces for other realities and imposing them on the situation that she's in there. So they're a real like kind of like visualization of like the absurdity of it, which I kind of quite liked as well. So there was a lot of like, I thought like really cool like philosophical stuff going on, like kind of like in the Matrix, but actually like a wee bit more fun. Like I thought the lassie who played the daughter, the performance for her was like, there was sections of it where I was like genuinely like, she's fucking terrifying, because she is just let go at everything that like tethers her to anything, and is like, you know, the everything bagel that she creates, you know, is just like, you know, so I don't think she got enough credit for that, because they were talking about Michelle Yeoh and the fella that played the husband.
Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah, Jamie Lee Curtis.
Jamie Lee Curtis was great.
They took some of the absurdity of like that whole like sausage fingers relationship, and then put in like pure the weird sex scene with like the mustard and all the rest of it, and they were so what the fuck. And then at the end of it, had this like really poignant, really like touching moment with the two of them. We were just like, what is this movie like actually doing to me? Because it is like starts to, you know, you're jumping about.
It puts you in a bit of a juxtaposition, doesn't it? Because like you're seeing one thing that's like both absurd and like a bit disgusting, but then kind of like the way that they turn it with the story, with the characters, with the visualization, like it's fantastic, because they are able to sort of evoke what shouldn't be in any way attached to that scene.
Exactly.
But you're actually like,
it's taking that absurdity that we're talking about and actually like somehow managing to like make it beautiful. And that's kind of where the sort of mother's character lands, is that she observes the absurdity of it and experiences it and has learned to grow out of it, but on the other side can actually like choose to see like beautiful things and like choose to then surround herself with those beautiful things, and for that to just be enough. That she doesn't need to exist beyond all space and time or be remembered or any of these things, because right here and now, this is what we've got, and like right here and now, that's what matters. And I'm like, I was all that part of it, man. I loved that bit of it. So
there's a bit at the start where it's near the start where she goes out to talk to the daughter. Like the daughter's just introduced her to her girlfriend, and she's like, there's like a moment that I was kind of like, fuck, man, because I think this is kind of true for a lot of people. She wants to go up and say something to her and like connect to her and say something like loving towards her, and she just goes like, you've put on a lot of weight, you're getting fat. And you can sort of see the pain in her face. And I genuinely think
that's the trauma that's passed on from her father to her, for her to her daughter, because you see the dad in that opening section and it's all about no telling him because it might fuck with his health and blah. So again, it's that generational kind of trauma thing in play as well. You know what I mean? Like,
and I mean, I thought that just for like, I mean, that's what I think, that's like half an hour in, and just the way that they had sort of encapsulated how people don't really want to be shit towards their loved ones, but they can't help it because, like you're saying, like
habit, stuff forced upon them through no fault of their own, like muscle memory. You know what I mean?
I just thought that was like a really great bit, and I thought it was like a very you had to be in the mood for it. Like the first time I sat down to watch it, I got about 15 minutes and I went, I'm not ready for this. Like, and then the second time, unfortunately, I fell asleep, and I thought it was good, but I'm going to get another watch because I only got like an hour and a bit into it.
Aye.
But there was definitely bits of it where I was like, this is fucking class.
Aye, there's a mixture of, as I say, there was an obvious Matrix comparison because there was like different worlds and stuff like that. But for me, I felt there was merely that kind of like Fight Clubby element to it where it's two personas, two personalities in combat, but also on like a journey of self-discovery where one thinks they've got the answer and is taking the mother down the dark path that somebody like Tyler Durden took Edward Norton's character down. But at the end of it, we have the character who embraces that madness and that darkness, but actually comes out on the other side of optimistic when Ed Norton's, you know, at the end with the hole in his face, holding Helena Bonham Carter's hand. Like, there's that, that dynamic that Durden had with Edward Norton's character, whose name I can't remember now, is there in Everything Everywhere All at Once. But I do also kind of get the sort of Matrix comparisons. The Kung Fu for a start. I mean, some of the Kung Fu sequences are dynamite.
Fucking ridiculous, man.
Even the section, as it, the movie's sort of building towards its crescendo, where there's an actual fight scene that, like a really heavily choreographed Kung Fu fight scene that is about not fighting. And I was like, this is just amazing. Like, loved it.
It is just a really well, like, cinematography, like the ways the scenes are done, like, yeah.
I'd love to see what
beautiful
storylines they didn't use, because as it's coming to that conclusion and we're seeing snippets of all the other realities, those were clearly storylines like the Sausage Finger storyline or like, you know, the Two Rocks storyline that were clearly filmed because there was loads of screenshots and stuff flickering in and out. So I'd probably quite like to see what storylines didn't make it into the movie but were considered, because they definitely picked the right ones. But I think there'd been a lot of like really watchable, interesting stuff that didn't make it in as well. You know what I mean? Like,
so before we go into the second film, which I actually did not see.
Well, what I was going to say is, because we're like at an hour, we could wait for Cocaine Bear for next week. Because I've seen it, Matt's seen it, but the reason that we did Everything Everywhere there was because I'd seen like the majority of it. But
well, yeah. Before we go into that, I'll maybe watch it. We can see it next week. See, because Matrix was mentioned a couple of times there, right? I don't know if you guys have seen this, and this can just be something to sort of finish off the pod. Have you seen the idea that Terminator is actually the prequel to the Matrix?
no.
So this is actually like the way it's meant to be done. So that, like, I think there was one of the scriptwriters or someone who was involved in the whole thing, and essentially John Connor is Neo. So it's like if you think about it, Skynet are the machines that then take over the machine world.
Yeah.
And that's how it should develop. So personally, I think that needs to be made. Whole thing redone
like canon
as an HBO series. 50 seasons.
Like
but no, I think like that could be amazing. And like when someone
does it actually make a level of sense?
As a clip, and I was like,
or it could anyway.
So much sense. I was like, that's genius.
yeah, so it's like the machines in the Matrix is basically like an evolution of Skynet. That's what happens when they switch Skynet on. It ends up
the end
in the
result.
Matrix.
Aye,
that should 100% get made.
it's like the meme that The Rock is an untitled James Bond movie, because Sean Connery is clearly like an old version of James Bond who has been locked up in Alcatraz for 60 years, and he hints that he's passed with the British Secret Services and stuff like that, but he never actually. It's like that. Like The Rock is like a Bond movie, basically, like old. And I'm
That's
like,
crazy.
that could be fun.
So yeah, you're right. Sophie Stewart, author, creator, and copyright owner of the stories of the Matrix and the Terminator movies.
Right.
So she's clearly wrote, like, had a
Fucking hell, man! Like the influence that lass will have had on like popular culture at this point is fucking outrageous. Like two of the biggest sci-fi franchises like ever.
African American women nobody's ever heard of.
Aye.
You know what I mean?
Nobody's
Literally
ever
the first time I've heard their name.
Absolutely mad. I seen a clip of it. It was online, and she was doing an interview, and it was almost like she was like saying it as if like, why don't people get this? Like, and I was just like, and when you say it, you're like, that just makes so much sense. I was like, that is awesome. Like, it's also like even T2, when you think of the Liquid Terminator, like that's almost like the first version of the Agent. Like, do you know what I mean? Like it can like merge into anything.
Or when they, 100%.
It all works so well, and I'm like, someone must be on that. Like,
I certainly hope so now, to be honest with you, because I would watch the shit out of that.
so yeah, I'm leaving.
I mean,
I thought I'd leave it with a teaser of like what should be.
The Terminator, the recent Terminator content's been pretty shite. So let's fucking
For a while.
let's get a reboot with the Matrix involved and Kung Fu. You can't go wrong with bringing Kung Fu into anything.
Kung Fu Terminator.
What did HBO get What did HBO just get the rights to? Big one. They got Harry Potter, didn't they?
Oh,
yes,
aye.
So they've got the rights to Harry Potter, but they're going to remake it. Like they're not going to make an offshoot. It's apparently just.
They're remaking the books in TV format.
But I think a lot of people, like I saw online, a lot of fans were like, no,
It's that nostalgia thing again, isn't it?
Like, they could have done like the stuff with like Dumbledore or like Tom Riddle and like the stuff from when.
Yeah, but that's not been going well, has it? No. The Fantastic Beasts and whatever else. I've seen a bit of backlash. Everything nowadays gets backlash, but I've seen a lot of folk, because the books, right, fair enough, they can be interpreted again 100 times. That's just what happens with them. I think it's too close to the movies to know for it to be. And again, the movies are what, 10, 15, probably older, years old, but at the same time, it feels too soon for a TV reboot yet. It's not far enough away, I don't think. And I think there's so many people who have just such huge like personal nostalgia for the movies, like watching guys like Daniel Radcliffe and Emma Watson and the ginger one,
Ron Beasley,
Rupert Grint. I didn't actually know his name.
Well done.
Watching them grow up throughout that process and then come away from it with the sort of affection that they have for it, but they've all pretty much said, I don't really ever want to be involved in it again, or no anytime soon. Like the cursed child thing that's set when they're adults will happen at some point, but Daniel Radcliffe is just vibing, doing like fucking Guns Akimbo and shit now. He's done that like Elijah Wood thing where he's like, Elijah Wood was like, I did the Lord of the Rings, now I'm just going to do like Wilfred, and I'm going to like talk to imaginary dogs and get stoned and like just do weird off the wall shit.
When he did Sin City, Elijah Wood and Sin City, that was like such a cool.
But you look at a lot of his choices after Lord of the Rings, he's deliberately like almost like stepped away from like big massive blockbuster shit, and like Daniel Radcliffe did a very similar thing, like did a lot of theatre, and when you look at the movies he's done, he's playing like
Women in Black
just odd characters that you wouldn't necessarily associate. Like, have you seen Guns Akimbo?
Yeah,
No,
I've seen it.
He wakes up with two guns literally bolted to his horns, and it's like he's got to work out, he's involved in some sort of augmented reality game sort of thing. But it's mental, but it's daft. It's the type of thing where a proper actor, you wouldn't expect them in it sort of thing. Like, so I think like replacing that cast for a TV show is going to cause a lot of like, same with like a lot of people griping about Snape, Alan Rickman. Like people are going to have to
Adam
replace.
Driver, they're talking about.
People are going to have to replace like really characters that people hold really dear, and I just think it's got a recipe for disaster over it, because they buy it for 8 seasons and they get halfway through the first season and everybody hates it. It's fucking done.
It's done.
You know what I mean, whereas you get it 10 years and develop it properly and give people whatever it is.
I mean,
maybe you've got a better chance.
The rights. It could be that they are going to be 5 years before they start
quite
filming,
possibly. But the backlash was wasn't it like ferocious, but it was people being like, I don't want...
Please
like,
don't.
I don't want another Harry Potter. I don't want another Rupert, whatever his name. No, Beasley or whatever it is.
Well, like, you get like that. You forget, like, there's a whole load of fans that are like not like they weren't out when the films were coming out. They're like still like young, coming through. But yeah, I get you.
Agree. Fuck that. Right, let's wrap there.
Aye.
We'll just fade out, or do you want me to do the call outs for like and subscribe and all that sort of stuff?
Well, we just did.
We just did it. Ironically or non-ironically, but aye.
I made a promise to whom will not to you, so stop the party. I tried to reconcile